thank you very much for joining us at Limerick.net-Azure user group. Perhaps in the future we'll shorten that to LDNA just to stop it being so much of a mouthful. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving up an hour of your time on a Saturday afternoon. So today we have, I'm actually really looking forward to this talk, but we have Ricardo Melo Joya. He's a senior software engineer. Thank you for double checking that pronunciation for me. I wanted to make sure we got that right. Senior software engineer and technical lead at BD. He's also a Microsoft MVP in developer technologies, and he's going to be telling us just how awesome VS Code is today. So over to you, Ricardo. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Carl. It's my privilege and honor to be here today. Let me start sharing. So I would like to welcome everyone again. Thank you for joining us today. As Carl said, I'll be talking to you about my favorite code editor, VS Code, and how it has become my go-to tool. You can see that I'm not the best designer, so you have this. I tried to do army knife with multiple things that you can do, and if I was going to do all the icons and all the logos that you could use, I wouldn't have enough space, so I just used a few. Maybe you are familiar with some of them. About myself, so I was awarded this year the MVP award for developer technologies. I'm from Portugal, Lisbon. If some of you have been there, there's one touristic spot that is this tower. It's the Tower of Belém, and one other nice thing that you can do if you are in that zone is to go to the Pastéis de Belém, or custard tarts, how you call them here, pastéis nata. These ones on the side, and I'm pretty sure between both of them you'll certainly like one of. So I have a picture here of my family. This was taken pre-COVID. My son is in front. He'll be 18 next month. My wife Anna, my other son Martin, which was born in Ireland, and my daughter Maria. Yeah, they all moved with me this month, 5 years, to Ireland. I'm living in Cork, and I've worked for Dell Technologies, G2 Speech, and Fidelity Investments before I joined BD in Limerick. Funny fact, I used to have a grunge band back in the 90s. I didn't dye my hair pink or blue because my grandmother, she said if I did, she would be very upset. So I just, for respect, I didn't do it. We recorded a demo back then, and that was actually my first experience with web development. I created this web page for the band that has the URL here on the bottom. Unfortunately, we can't access this anymore, but there was 3 MP3s that you could download to hear the musics. Now, if you want, I uploaded the music to this URL, and if you want to listen and hurt your ears and probably without a way to get better after that, it's up to you. It's on your own risk. So a quick intro. I'll be talking of what is VS Code, why VS Code, who's using VS Code, and if there's any community support, how does that work, why and when I use VS Code, what extensions I use the most, some quick shortcuts references, and a quick demo of me using VS Code. So VS Code, or Visual Studio Code, is a free source code editor. It's multi-platform. You can run it on a Windows box or Linux or macOS. It just behaves pretty much the same way, regardless of the platform. You can even use it with in a Windows box with Windows subsystem Linux. It's also possible to do it like that, and I think many people are using like that these days. It has loads of features, including support for debugging, syntax highlighting or IntelliSense, snippets. You can create your own snippets. It helps you on code refactoring. You have an embedded Git tool that you can see what changes you have on your files and how the files you want to commit and so forth, all of that, and so many more others that you can get, like extensions. It has over 12 million monthly users. Now, this was the data that the team from VS Code on Twitter gave to me back in November. Maybe this is already above this, and I wouldn't doubt it. And it's an awesome tool. And if you want to know more, you can go to code.visualstudio.com. Why did I start using VS Code? So I started developing for PHP because PHP was free, and Microsoft everything back in the day, early 2000s. Everything from Microsoft was paid, and I just couldn't afford any of that, so I started doing with PHP. I developed a custom a content management system, and I sold to some customers. My wife, she's a graphic designer, and we had this business on the side, like a second job going on, and that was like my first tool. So it was I was pretty much working on the web. I used Dreamweaver and other tools that were the tools back in the day. Then when I started working with .NET, I was using Visual Studio, the full-fledged IDE, which was for some cases very heavy. It would take a lot of time to open and to load the solution and everything. So when I needed to open some simple file, XML file, or JavaScript or HTML, something like that, I would probably use like Notepad++. So I had a lot of tools on my machine, and I think about that time I started to use also Sublime as code editor for front end. So I had like all these tools on my machine, and I had to figure out which one to use based on what I was doing. When VS Code was launched, it just amazed me because it was so simple, it was so fast, it was so powerful, and I started using it from the day it was announced, and I just removed everything else from my machine. So Notepad++ and all of these things, I don't install them anymore because I can do everything and much more with VS Code. So one of the things that they say on their site is first and foremost is an editor that gets out of your way, and that's exactly why I used it, because it was so much of a hassle to get my development environment set up with all the tools that I needed. And now I just have VS Code, and with a feature that I'll talk later, which is syncing your settings, regardless of the machine that I installed it. Almost automatically, I get my extensions and all my configuration, and I'm ready to rock and roll. Why do I use it? Because it's awesome, it's fast, it provides me all the support that I need, and so much more. If you want to know more, you can go to that URL. Maybe we can paste those in the chat. So who's using VS Code besides me? The Stack Overflow's annual developer survey of 2019, they asked the question about the code editor, and the VS Code had 50.7% results. So it was the most used, followed by Visual Studio, Notepad++, IntelliJ, Vim, and so forth. So this is available also on that link. So this was available also on November last year. It's not available anymore, so I tried to update the link, but I couldn't find a link to this thing. So it was the top. It was the first one on the top trending projects on GitHub, with 19K individual contributors. So more recently, so the time tracker says that VS Code is #1 editor. So I don't know. I think this was on the Tweetverse for some time. Some tweets about this publication, and the top editors for 2020. Again, VS Code was on the top. I don't know exactly how Chrome is an editor, but maybe they use Chrome OS or something like that. I think, yeah, so this is the article that is on Visual Studio Magazine, and when you click that, you go to this study, I think. What more can I say? So it's it's the most used, or at least for the people that answer this survey, on the state of JS. Yeah, you can also go there and check more information. So there's a lot of people in the community, especially people working with JavaScript technologies and open source technologies, that they are using VS Code as a first choice. Why is that also happening? Well, from what I've been seeing and most of the books that I've been reading for the last maybe 2 years, all the examples, or most of the examples, are always done with VS Code. So I suppose that if you're starting now and you're starting to develop and to learn, if you learn using VS Code, and because I think it's so intuitive and so fast, you really don't have a reason to look for something else and try different tools. So books like this one, C#9 and .NET 5, all the examples, except when it's strictly required to use Visual Studio for WPF development and for mobile development. Everything else is used VS Code. Of course, if you go to a book about Angular, everything will be done on VS Code. So who's using, and other places where you might find VS Code experience? So code spaces, it's not available for everyone. Unfortunately, it's not available for me anyway. I got access the other day in a hacky way. Maybe people can try and let me know if that works for you too. Which was when I was using one of the extensions, the how is it called now? I forgot the name. The live share. So I was pair programming with someone, and I got a live share link. When I clicked, for some reason, instead of opening in Visual Studio Code, it just opened in the browser, and I had code spaces available to work with. So maybe it's, if you want to peek, try to do that with someone. If you ever use stack bleeds, and I use a lot, sometimes I want to make a test an example, sometimes even when I'm reading a book on my tablet and I want to test the particular snippet, I just go to stack bleeds, create a new bleeds, and write the code even on my tablet, and I can see if it works, or I can try different things while I'm reading a book and I don't have a computer nearby. And if you want to see, if you have a public repo on GitHub and you want to see your code in VS Code way, you can just append one S after GitHub. So as I have here on the example, yeah, your code will be open inside a VS Code-like environment. But this is not from them. I'll demo that in a second. Another thing that it's awesome, and maybe the major reason why VS Code is awesome, is the community support. There are loads of contributors adding loads of extensions. If you have a problem, eventually someone already had it before, and you'll find an extension or more than one that solves that problem. If not, you can develop your own extension. The extensions can be done to add languages, debuggers, and tools to support your development workflow. There are more about that on this link. Why and when I use VS Code? Well, I think I use it always, and only if I can't get it done in VS Code for some reason, then I have to use something else. Back when I was working with Java and Kotlin, I didn't find the support in VS Code for Java and Kotlin as good as IntelliJ, so I would just go to IntelliJ to use for those. But all the front end was always done on VS Code. So as I said, no more Notepad++, anything, text documents, XML, JSON, whatever. I always try to, or I always open them on VS Code. The other tool that I talk about was the settings sync. So you have the option to customize your VS Code to your liking, the theme, the extension, snippets, everything, and then you just sync. And every time that you install a new version on a new machine, or you just have to uninstall, install again, you just sync you just sign in, sync, and you get your settings back. And it's a ubiquitous experience. I can tell you that the first time that I did this talk, I was using a Windows machine for work, and I was using my Mac, and I did the presentation on my Mac, and I used a different theme on VS Code. And when I saw my Windows machine had the theme updated exactly the same way that it was on my Mac, and it was like almost instantaneously. As soon as I applied in one place, it just was applied on the other one. So I think it's really cool that you don't have to go through all that hassle of remembering which extensions you like to use, and installing them again when you need to customize stuff. You have to go through all of that. If you forget, then you have to go to the other machine and check what's going on. With this, you have that problem solved. So it has also excellent IntelliSense support and tools for my development needs. So I've been working in the last 2 or 3 years with Angular, and one of the extensions that I immediately install now, I don't, because I get the syncs, is the Angular Essentials by John Papa. And when other people join the team and they are setting up their environments, this is one of them that I say that it's a must tool. Extension installs not only the Angular language service, but some other things that help you get more productive. So one of the examples that I had here was that my team was working with Java and Kotlin, and for the back end, and Angular for the front end. And some people prefer to use IntelliJ instead of VS Code. And one thing that I noticed was that when writing end-to-end tests using Cypress, I had IntelliSense in VS Code, and they didn't have on IntelliJ. And that was awesome for me, because it was one more point for VS Code, and it would made me even more lazy than I usually am, because I can get all the help from the code editor. So as I said, has excellent Angular support. I think that from the beginning, even the Google team that is developing Angular is using VS Code and TypeScript. So it's only natural that everything just works. The extensions that I mentioned, it's super fast and reliable. And if you like to live on the edge, you can always install the developer version. What is it called? Don't remember now. I don't use it in production, but you can use a version with the latest developments or nightly builds that is updated, and it's not like the stable version. So going back to the extensions that I use the most. So one of them that I really love is Git Lens. As I'm typing code, as I'm working, I can see line by line who made changes and when, so I can see if a piece of code is old or not. So one example is I absolutely hate see comment code when I'm working, and Git Lens let me know when was it commented and by whom. And if I see that it was commented like 3 years ago, I just delete it, because if it wasn't needed 3 years ago, it's probably not needed anyway. And even if it's going to be needed in the future, that's why we have source control. We can always go back and see what was going on and just copy the code. The Angular language service that I mentioned, one thing that I'm used to use, because on Visual Studio I use the ReSharper by JetBrains, and I was used to have the Control-Shift-V and get a list of my latest items on the clipboard. So I use a lot this one, the clipboard manager. I'm not saying that you should copy and paste code, but everyone knows that eventually we're going to copy and paste something. And the clipboard manager gives me a list of the latest things that I did. So I don't need to go back and forth most of the time. I just pick from the list the latest things that I copied and apply. Pluralsight is also a nice extension. Pluralsight has been my partner since I started my developer career. It allowed me to learn a lot and move faster than my peers, because I was committing and doing the effort of trying to learn new tools and best practices, new languages, and all that was coming and new. And Pluralsight has always been my go-to place to learn new things. Almost like if you've seen the Matrix movie, it's how I download my knowledge. So I just go there, watch a course, 2 or 3, or do a path, and then I know something about it, and then I just get hands-on. Development support for snippets, themes. I use a lot of snippets that I just, stuff that I keep doing over and over. I just make it a snippet, and just recently I was helping a colleague set up his environment, and when we were pair programming, I saw that he was going to write all of that thing, and I just shared my snippets with him, and now he has all the snippets. So it's that is some other extensions that I used before: Docker, Remote Explorer, Azure, and LiveShare, which I'm actually using more these days, but it's definitely worth a try. So quick shortcut references. I would say that Control or Command, if you are on a Mac, Shift P is the go-to. You can always use access this with the F1. This one and Control P are the ones that I use the most, but Control Shift P will take you probably everywhere. Control Shift single quote will open a terminal window, which is also something that I love, and that's why I started using VS Code in the first place. I didn't have to have a separate window with my terminal open. Now I can have all of that inside VS Code. And if you are a shortcut person and you like to learn your shortcuts, if you do Control KS, you get an interface that shows you the shortcuts, allows you to search and edit in case you want to change them for something else. And if you don't want to change it, you just want to use it, you can also do Control KR, and you'll open a PDF with shortcuts, and you can print or you can keep it on a separate screen. I usually keep it on another screen. And when I'm looking for something, I just go there and see if there is a shortcut, and then I just try to use the shortcuts. So let's see it then. This would be also a good time if anyone has any questions or comments, and I can help with something before.
Anybody has any questions they want to unmute themselves or just drop it into the chat, I can ask them of Ricardo.
Okay, let me switch my presentation. Okay, you might have to edit that part and remove that camera if you want. So, as a demo, I thought about, oh, that shouldn't be there. creating a simple project and just play a bit with VS Code here and how I would start like a spike for a new product or something like a minimum viable product or something like that. So the first thing that I will do is, oh, this didn't go as well as I wanted to. Presentation. Where is that? I wanted to have the presentation now. I can't find it now. I don't know why that extension is not displaying. I just enabled this before, and now I can't remember.
Are you looking
presentation mode?
The screencast?
Yeah.
There was a toggle screencast option at the top.
That's it. Okay, I wasn't searching the right thing. Yeah, okay, so Control-Shift-P. And of course, it's an awesome shortcut, but it helps if you know what you're searching for, and I didn't know what I was searching for. So I was looking for presentation and something else. It was a screencast that I was looking for. Thank you for that. So Control-Shift single quotes, and we're going to create a new folder here. And we're going to create a new project. Angular. Happy days. This is going to take a bit. Stuff done, and while this does this thing, I'll just go through some of the extensions that I have here. So this will be the file explorer. I'll be showing that in a second. Just wanted to get that thing started. You can use the search and replace usually as you have in any other tools. One thing that I use a lot is clicking on the ellipses here. You get to specify which files to include. Sometimes I'm looking for something just on tests on spec files, and I don't want to be searching on the whole solution, so you might just restrict. Or if you want to exclude files, you just exclude the files that you want. This is very helpful. You can use also regular expressions. Eventually, some people might argue that when you have a problem and you solve it with regular expressions, what do you get? 2 problems, at least. So it's open to the user and its own risk. So the other one that I have here is testing, what do they call this? Test Explorer UI. This works for multiple languages. You just need to install the correct adapter, the debugger, and you can also install the SQL Server extension. For instance, here I can connect to any database, and I can just, for instance, create a new query, and that's what I have here. Extension from DB, was it? Something like that. And I don't even need to open a new tool to go to to SQL or MySQL or something like that, Postgres, whatever you are using, and just play with that. You can just, without leaving VS Code, just have an extension and do everything that you need to do. So this thing is sorted. So let's do something else. So one way to open the folder that you are working is using that command code and then dot. I'm going to do that, and this is going to open a new window. I'm going to close that one. I could also browse there and go there, but I'm lazy. Code dot works for me. So now you have the File Explorer. I think now you can change this to the other side, but I kind of got used to use it on that side. Apparently I need to toggle the screencast again. And one thing that you might notice is that it keeps the things in the list. So eventually it was already there, but I wasn't seeing it until I was told exactly what to look for. But it keeps like a list of the things that you used more recently. Actually, there's something here. Oh, I think I didn't do that. So another extension that I have, which is very nice, is the GitHub extension. I think this is maybe part of the VS Code anyway. I don't know anymore what's an extension, what it's not. So let's say that I want to check this into GitHub. I need yeah, yes, if you are asking, I could also be doing that here. And you can stage all changes, and you can say initial commit or whatever floats your boat, and then we commit. And now we don't have anywhere to push because I don't have a repo. So one thing that we can do, Ctrl-Shift-P, publish to GitHub. What account do you want to use? I want to do, sorry, private or public. I want to do a public repo. Uh-oh. What did I call it? Oh, damn it. It called it client app. That's why I didn't find it. Client app. It was uploaded here with client app. So it's done here. Okay, so let's get back there. So if we want to get this running, we can go with .NET run. Hopefully this will work. If the demo gods allow. And if I do this, eventually this will work. Okay, so this is important for the other step. So let's put that on the side. So about the tests. So one thing that this UI test to explore UI has that I'm not particularly fond of is that you have to specify where your karma config is defined, or the location of that karma file. So let me see before I embarrass myself too much. There was karma conf. Yeah, so he's assuming that this is here, but we are on client app Karma conf, if I'm not wrong. Something like that. Oh, I opened the client app directly. Okay. So that's the reason why. Okay, now let's do this in another way. Select folder. So it's probably already trying to find stuff. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to ignore that because I messed up. Yeah, so sometimes these tests take a bit to show. I don't use this a lot, but people that I work with and I talk that use Jest, for instance, instead of Karma, they say that this is very good. You can like run and debug the tests, so it can help you. So finally showed something, so we can run the tests here, and you can debug the tests if you want to. Apparently. Stop that. What else? The live share. You can get here and create a new live share session or join a live share session, and maybe it's something that we can do in a next iteration. And the extensions, you can search for any extension here, let's say Azure, and then it will show you these ones are already installed, these ones are there, and if you just want to see which ones you have installed, you can filter on the ones that you have installed, like that, for instance. So in the meanwhile, the other fella opened there. So what I wanted to do here was client app. Let's install my favorite end-to-end test tool. Yeah, we get this problem because, of course, I don't have it globally installed. So we need to go to nodes in. And that will take also a while. Any questions so far? Any suggestions?
All good so far. It's good to see how someone else uses VS Code.
Yeah.
As I was saying to you earlier, I come from an IT ops background, so I'm in Bicep or ARM templates or PowerShell when I'm in VS Code. So it's good to see how developers use it as well. See if we can pick up any tips.
Yeah, it's always good to see how other people use. We always speak some tricks based on someone else usage of the editor. I've been doing this code talks. I made 3 so far. One of the victims was Michaela, which is attending today, and we just end up learning with other developers or other professionals that are using VS Code, how they use it and how they make them tailored to their needs. So hopefully I got this installed correctly. So if you work with Angular, you know that the Angular template comes bundled with a protractor for end-to-end tests and Karma and Jasmine for unit tests. I just like better to use Cypress. It's more reliable, doesn't rely on Selenium, which is a pain to get running and updated. It's always complaining about different versions of Chrome and stuff like that. And when it's time to debug, it really excels. So one way that we can show that, for instance, is if we can get this to run. Name demo. So we can maybe at some point do a talk about Cypress if you think that it's valuable. But yeah, using Control P, you get to spec TS, and then you open here. I just need to do something. Waiting for it to. Because this gives problems. So one thing that I was telling you about is about the snippets. So if you go to snippets, and in my case TypeScript, I have a few snippets that I do a lot. So I've been working a lot in unit testing, and I just follow the range act assert. So usually I just do it like this, and I just some reason, and it just saves me time. It's not showing again. Formatting, Alt-Shift F, and so forth. Okay, let's remove that. The Cypress console open here. So I'm just going to run this simple test, and I'm going to try to make the test pass. And so yeah, I don't want to go to the specifics of Cypress, so I'm just going to run this. If you want, you can select which browser you want to use. So I'm going to try to do all of this in the same screen. So the test ran, and it failed, now, as you can see here. And this is something that you get that in Protractor you wouldn't get. Like it tells you exactly where it failed, and it's saying that it waited 4 seconds to replace me with something relevant, but it didn't because it's not there. So I can say that, well, you should be able to find this. So let's do that. And the test runs again. At some point. And yay, we have a passing test. So the IntelliSense that I was telling you about just a while ago. So another thing that you can do here is, let's say I don't want to check that the whole page contains hello world, but I want to check that a specific part of the page contains hello world. And Cypress is going to help me on that too, because I just changed. The file is loading again. We just use this cross hair here, and we click. Oh, and because I'm doing a demo, of course, this is not working now. Okay. You should get something strange happened here. We should get like a pointer there showing me what to do. I know that it's an H1. Everyone knew that it was an H1 anyway. So get H1, and then I can say should, and when I enter the quotes, it gives me all the options that I have. So in this case, I want something with text. I don't know what. Then I type text, and then it gives me everything that takes text. And I say, okay, it should find the H1 and that should have the text hello world. I'm going to make it fail. Just bear with me for a few seconds. And you can see here that he's trying to find this. And then it say that he expected to find hello world, but it was hello world with a comma there, and then there. That should. What? Oh, okay, sensitive. So let's try to do something special here. So there, source. I'm just going to the home, and I'm going to add here that, just to show something. Let's call this one. That's the only input. I'm going to make it easier. So let's say that I'm looking for an input. Then I want to type hello LDNA. Oh, too fast. So one good thing about Cypress, and that's the thing that I wanted to show, is that you see each step. So we see that we asserted something here, and then we get here input, and then type, and then we have the before, and we have the after. So we can see exactly what happened, and this is awesome when it works, and when for some reason this is acting funky. And when we are debugging and trying to figure out what happened with our tests. It's a bit funky today. You even see where the cursor was clicked, and you can choose the place where it's clicked. So yeah, I spend most of my day when I'm working in front end, at least, doing a bit of this that I showed you so far. So I think we can go back to the slide. This was the demo that I had ready for today. And by the way, we are hiring. So if anyone is looking for a new opportunity, or if someone knows anyone that is looking for a new opportunity, just reach out. I'm allowed to do this on your meetup, am I, Carl?
Sure, fill your boots.
Okay. So thank you for joining us today again. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on YouTube. You can see the latest editions of Code Talks. And I would be delighted to have one of you as a next guest. If you want, you can also follow, and you should, Code on Twitter to know more about this awesome tool. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you. Ricardo, has anybody any questions for Ricardo before we wrap up, or are we all happy enough with that? That was an excellent presentation. Thank you. Okay, Ricardo, if there's no questions, thank you very much for your time. If anybody come in late or wants just to see the recording, we'll get that recording up on the Limerick.net .Azure User Group YouTube channel later on today, maybe tomorrow at some point this weekend, and you'll be able to share it and watch it and do whatever you need with it. Thank you all for attending, and if everybody would have a great Saturday, that'd be awesome.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Ricardo.
thanks.
Have a nice weekend. Thank you again.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.